Welcome to Faces of Stone. My name is Marc-Anthony Macon. Tonight we're going to be talking about some Star Wars ephemera, including the Star Wars Holiday Special and the Ewok Adventures. But first, let me introduce my co-hosts. She is the corn queen of frog moths. It's Amanda Sisk.
Hello, everyone. I love episode 8 of the new Twin Peaks. You should all watch it.
Who doesn't? Watch it right now, but after you watch us.
Okay.
And also we have the inventor of Mr. Pibb for post-structuralists. That's Noah Diamond.
Thank you. I know I've done a lot in this world.
Thanks for joining us, Noah. So, I think as we've been watching all of these movies chronologically, while there have been, some style changes throughout each episode, this one might mark the most distinct style change between any Star Wars episodes. You have, the beauty and wonder that is A New Hope, which really changed filmmaking forever, followed by this, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Filmmaking forever.
It changed a lot of things forever.
Yes. Before we start, I do want to let everybody know, in case you haven't seen other episodes, that we play bingo, with buzzword bingo, and anytime one of these two guys says something I've written on a bunch of pieces of paper all around me, you'll hear that, and I will show you, that's really loud, I will show you what they said that I thought they were going to say.
And she's not bad at all at predicting some of the things that we can't help but say. So actually, before we get into the Star Wars Holiday Special, let's just quickly kind of talk about the other Star Wars ephemera that's a bit less known and perhaps a bit less reviled, and that would be the two Ewok adventures.
Are they less reviled?
Well, I think since they're less known, perhaps they're less reviled.
Okay.
I mean, I think that, to me, they're more insufferable than the Holiday Special because they don't quite cross the line into what on earth.
I agree with that. I think the two Ewok movies are, in a sense, worse than the Holiday Special. You're right. The Holiday Special is sort of famously bad. It's sort of legendary how badly received it was and how it was disowned by Lucas and company. And yet it is sort of fascinating in a way that the Ewok movies never get to be. I remember seeing the Ewok movies when they were on TV when I was a kid in 84 and 85 and trying so hard to like them because it was new Star Wars content during that long dry spell. But
yeah, they didn't quite do it. I mean, although to be fair to them, I feel like, I think that people now tend not to remember, or, many weren't alive at the time to recognize that television now is really a pretty well-executed medium. And at that time, not so much. So what they were able to accomplish technically was still pretty impressive for the time. But man, was it not terribly entertaining and horribly wince-worthy in moments. But there are some things there that are just great.
You're
One
right.
of the things that, I know we're not talking about the special yet, but the Ewoks speak English.
I think that might have been a lesson learned from the Holiday Special.
And then the Holiday Special, nobody speaks English.
Yeah, but I mean, there is like a consistency here in that pretty much only Wicket speaks English, or
The other ones do too, don't they?
No.
Or whatever. Oh, I thought they did.
No, I think they're mostly just speaking Ewokese with maybe an English thing here and there. But I feel like something that's similar between these two is that you almost have to learn a language watching them. Like, Wicket is speaking all of these Ewokese things, and the only character speaking English consistently is this little girl that did not want to be there.
Yeah.
She certainly didn't speak English very well.
No.
I kept saying, I can't watch this because I can't understand it. And it could be also that it's, videotape after videotape after videotape. But it was also, I could not understand what anybody was saying, including the human beings, until Wilford Brimley came in.
Yes, yeah. He has good diction, and this was before his diabetes scare thing. But I mean, then we also have Sian Phillips.
Yeah.
This bizarro witch that turns into a raven when she twists
around. Is that a crow or a raven?
I'm not sure which it is. It's a blackbird.
It's probably.
one of the things about these Ewok movies that I find so, bad is like none of these seem like Star Wars characters to me. Sienna Phillips seems like a wicked witch from a fairy tale. There are horses and goats on Endor.
Right.
We
Yeah.
never have seen a horse or a goat in the Star Wars universe before. And so it doesn't feel like it has anything to do with Star Wars. And Wicket speaking English, like even that, the one character who is familiar from the saga is notably different, even though he's played by Warwick Davis.
Well, and can we talk for a second about his piercing, haunting, horrific eyes?
Yeah, it's not good.
I don't know, they decided to add pupils maybe so that Warwick Davis could see a little better because he was going to be filming more of this. It might have been a mercy for the actor.
Yeah.
But it looks terrifying.
The Ewoks are not appealing in these movies.
No.
Similar to, I think, the way the Wookiees are not appealing in the holiday special. It's just not pleasant to spend time with them. And although I do think the first the first Ewok movie is a little better, just in general. The narration helps, even though it's very un-Star Wars-like.
And by Burl Ives.
No. Yeah, by Burl Ives, of all people, yeah.
I mean, who seems to be medicated. He's a little like, story begins, and...
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Winnie the Pooh was out on a tear last night.
Yeah.
Well, okay, my question is, why did Warwick Davis have to play Wicket? I mean, why was he even in that costume? It didn't have
it might be just... It could be anyone, but it was probably just because... Lucasfilm was involved in this and Lucas liked him as a person and wanted to be nice.
Yeah, that's why I think, although the Ewok movies are worse than the holiday special, and there's less excuse for them to be that bad because the holiday special, at least, comes right after A New Hope. Star Wars is barely a thing at this point.
Right.
The properties were licensed. Someone made a holiday special. That's what they came up with. But these Ewok movies follow Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. There was no reason not to work harder on them, or I don't know. I know Lucas wrote the stories, but it feels like even the worst product that Lucas supervised more directly has considerably more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this does speak to the fact that television at the time really didn't know what to do with something that was supposed to be somewhat cinematic. This was, before Twin Peaks, and no one had really figured out. Speaking of Twin Peaks, we have The Giant is in Ewoks: The Battle for Endor. Carl Struycken, as the Marauder King.
Yes.
Bring me the power! The power!
Yes.
Another little tidbit note, as we discussed last time, the Blurgs are first seen in Ewoks: The Battle for Endor. They're apparently going to be in...
Rise of Skywalker?
No, in Mandalorian.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because we were like, who are these guys? I mean, that's another thing that takes us out of the Star Wars universe. It's like, who the hell are these guys?
Yeah.
Like what? They're on Endor, so presumably they would still be on. I mean, did they just get on Endor? Or,
I mean, that's a part that almost works for me. Like, I kind of like the idea that Endor isn't just this forest. There's a whole ecosystem of culture going on there. That's fine, but it's still stupid.
Well, that is interesting as far as the connection to the rest of the Star Wars canon. The first Ewok adventure, it was originally broadcast as the Ewok Adventure, and then the Caravan of Courage title was added later. But in the first Ewok Adventure, Endor is clearly shown as orbiting a big gaseous planet in the sky that we see in the very first shot. If I'm not mistaken, in Return of the Jedi, the forest moon of Endor is never identified as orbiting a particular planet or...
No, it's definitely a gas giant. I mean... I guess that maybe that wasn't said in Return of the Jedi, but that's just the thing that I've known forever.
So is that planet named Endor? And
that planet is named Endor, and this is Endor's moon. I think it has several moons, and this is the forest moon. There's also a Tweel moon, which is a little awkward. And
well, because somebody told me, and it wasn't either of you people, that because I thought it was the forest moon of Endor. And that's what you're saying it is, right?
It is, yes.
Endor. And they're like, no, it's Endor. It's the forest.
And I mean, it's the same thing like Yavin, the planet that the base is on in A New Hope. They're on the moon of Yavin, and that's Yavin 4. It's the fourth moon of Yavin. I don't know what number the forest moon of Endor is, but it is a moon around a gas giant planet.
Well, it did make us do some research last night on what exactly defines a moon. Because it's this foresty thing, and our moon reflects the sunlight, and sort of what makes a moon. And I think it was Noah, what'd you say? It was something of a certain size that
an object of a certain size that in the gravitational orbit of a planet.
Right.
But then you start looking at Pluto, and that's a dwarf planet.
But Pluto is basically moon-sized, and that's why astronomers don't want to call it a planet, or planetary scientists don't want to call it a planet.
So why isn't it a moon?
Because it's not in orbit around a larger body. It's got a dual orbit with I think it's Charon is the name of the. So Pluto used to have a moon, but they're like, yeah, but the moon is basically just slightly smaller than Pluto.
But Pluto orbit. I mean, I don't have to get all that is, but Pluto orbits the sun. But I guess we orbit the sun, and we're not the moon.
Right, and the moon orbits us.
It's so confusing.
And in Return of the Jedi, I believe the second Death Star is being constructed in the orbit of either Endor or Endor's forest moon.
It's the forest moon that it's in orbit of. Now, when we get to Return of the Jedi, we should watch to see if we actually see that gas giant that it's in orbit around.
Okay.
Which, in my memory, it's there, but I haven't watched Return of the Jedi in at least 5 years, and I have no memory, so we'll see.
Well, it's got to be orbiting something, or else they wouldn't say that's no moon.
But that was the first Death Star.
Right.
That's no moon, George Harrison says.
So, with that, let's move on to, wait, hang on. Amanda, can you say something so I can read that?
All right, here it goes. Imitating Alec Guinness, but sounding like George Harrison.
So let's use Alec Guinness to segue into the holiday special, because while I'm sure he probably got a call at some point and said, no.
Does appear in it briefly in footage from.
He is there in archival footage. He is there briefly, and I'm sure he was not happy about that. / got paid more than anyone should have been paid just to let his image be there.
And the Vader footage was archive footage, right?
It was, and I can't tell if that was something from A New Hope that they just kind of dubbed over slightly differently, or if it was like some extra footage that was used.
It's hard to tell, but James Earl
Jones was, did do new recordings for this, the poor man.
Well, God's free money. But, okay, so Noah and I were talking, though, and about the same thing, and you can see when the guy's talking to Vader, you can't really see his face.
Yeah, it's
clearly overdone. So I think it could have actually
just been the same scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of the stuff we see there that is A New Hope is either directly from the movie, and most of it I think probably is, or maybe some excess. Like, I know there's some of the outside of the cantina stuff that was some extra deleted scene footage, like with the big long-legged thing that was originally filmed and edited out of A New Hope. So that was thrown in there. Some of the cantina stuff.
It is interesting. I mean, considering, Alec Guinness clearly is not a participant in the holiday special. Maybe he got out of it because his character sort of dies in episode 4. But the fact that Harrison Ford, who was, when they signed their contracts to do the first Star Wars movie, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher signed on to also appear in any sequels that were made. Harrison Ford did not. And Harrison Ford had to be re-seduced and renegotiated to do Empire. So how they got him to do this TV special, I would love to know.
I imagine there was, some physical seduction involved, because, I don't know. But, okay, so I just want to say, though, overall, like, watching it this time, and this is not a new feeling for me necessarily, but it is a renewed and invigorated and palpable feeling. I fucking love the Star Wars holiday special so much. And I even this time I just felt it was remarkably beautiful. There's something about it that I just love watching and makes me giggle in a very unique way. And I think part of it is just genuine nostalgia for that time when this kind of show was not at all unusual. You would just have these kind of throwaway variety shows that were completely bizarre and made no sense, and no one was really paying that much attention to them, but they were there. So in that sense, I kind of love it. But also, it's just assaultingly strange attempt at a narrative, and the weird ways that all of the variety things were shoehorned in, like mostly through screens. You know, it's just like the Wookiees had 75 different screens in there.
Those were all illegal, by the way.
What, right. They were all hidden away. You couldn't have these screens. And I also want to say, like, the set decorators did a really good job. Like, Chewbacca's family's house, it looks great. It's really well designed.
By Ralph McQuarrie, apparently. McQuarrie was hired to make images of the Wookiee planet of, I think it's, in the special, it's pronounced Kazook.
Kazook. Well, I've heard they say two different ways. Someone says Kashyyyk and someone else says Kazook.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that the proper pronunciation, from my understanding, is Kazook. But
you're very good at that.
That you're better at that than anybody in the Christmas special is.
Yeah.
Just from that little moment, I can tell. Because all the Christmas special, I mean, it was just didn't sound like Wookiees at all.
It was
constipated people.
Like, we know that for Chewbacca's voice in the Star Wars films, we know Ben Burtt labored to combine the sounds of various animals and create sentences out of them, and now it's just kind of actors wrapped in fur going, "Aah!"
Yes. And I mean, it's a good 15, 20 minutes of just Wookiee.
Oh my God.
No, I think one of the problems with the special, and I agree with you, Marc-Anthony, to the extent that there are things in it that sort of must be seen to be believed and that can be enjoyed, but it shoots itself in the leg right out of the gate by having the whole very extended opening sequence that is all but unwatchable, and it's all just Wookiees grunting at each other.
Not like you said, they're not attractive. The only
Not even
is what's her name, Mala.
Mala. Okay, so wait.
And it's because that was an actual Chewbacca suit that they made into Mala. So
I have the Wookiee storybook here, which gives us here's Lumpy enjoying his Wookiee cake.
That's about 10 times cuter than the way he looks in the special.
So we get their full names.
Right.
He's really Lumpawarum.
Lumpawarum.
Yeah, which is, I love that, like you hear his name, you're like, Lumpy, that's stupid. And then but that's not his full name. His full name is Lumpawarum, which is even more stupid. It's great.
I mean,
similarly, like,
sounds like something.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's some alien name.
And Mala, I'm fine with that name too. That's fine. Her full name is Mala Tabuk. Okay, I can deal with that. Then we got Itchy. Itchy, the grandfather, his full name is Atich Chukuk.
I think we all have a titch to cook with this special. It's like, I know George Lucas, apparently one of the things he did contribute was he named Chewbacca's family members. And you can see how he got from like Chewbacca, aka Chewie, to, Lumpamarump. Being called Lumpy, Itchy, Lumpy, Chewy. All right, that's how male Wookiees are named, apparently.
Yeah, but I mean, I gotta say, like, Lucas's penchant for naming things really stupid things is one of my favorite things about Star Wars.
Mine too.
I mean, they're some of the dumbest names ever, and it's kind of great. But these are some super dumb ones.
Exceptionally stupid, yes.
So let's talk about Art Carney for a second.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Like, what on earth? Like, I mean, the fact that I just love that, like, and again, as we've said earlier, no one really knew what Star Wars was at this point. They may have seen it, once 10 times in the theater, but no one kind of knew what was next. But to us now, it just seems ludicrous that someone sat down and said, we're doing a Star Wars thing on TV. We need Art Carney.
Well, it's very much the kind of, except for the Star Wars cast, it's very much the kind of cast that one of these holiday specials would have.
Mm-hmm.
Stars, very well known for classic roles in classic shows. Art Carney, Harvey Korman, B. Arthur, is there maybe one or two others? You know, I mean, that is, that to that extent, it's a fairly conventional holiday special.
Yeah.
All three of those people are brilliant.
They are, and they do their best with what they have.
They do. And
I mean, Harvey Korman's unhinged Julia Child.
Yeah.
I could watch that all day. It's so ridiculous.
The one part where the arm, whoever's doing the fourth arm, comes up and she's already got. It's clearly a mistake because that thing's trying to feed her with that person's trying to feed her with a spoon, and she's trying to feed herself with a ladle. It's clearly a mistake.
I mean, you can feel the chaos on the set. It is great.
Yes.
And I also like, but you know, that bit actually really kind of lands and works in the sense that, you know, it is a pretty decent parody of trying to cook along with someone, you know, on the television that has done this 15 times and has a camera crew and everything measured out already.
He's hilarious because, you know, he corrects himself so much, and it's like,
yes,
it's whisk, whisk, stir, stir, push. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's whisk, whisk, push, stir, push, you know, and that's what makes it funny. When it goes back to Mala trying to do it, I don't think that's funny.
No, but I do think that's relatable.
Yes, I guess, yes.
That's me and Emerald. Like, come on, just, goddamn.
It's me and the Frugal Gourmet.
Okay.
Which nobody knows anymore. I'm sorry.
I know the Frugal Gourmet.
I know, we're old.
But there was a time when I was really young when I conflated the Frugal Gourmet and the Galloping Gourmet, and my grandmother was very upset. These are very different people. Unrelated to anything at all, but my boyfriend he thinks that he just realized that Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro are different people, and this has blown my mind.
Wait, what?
They are.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine that they just made me switch all the roles they played. Like, what if the other person played that? And this is hilarious. But anyway, that was a tangent.
I have to say something off too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the guy who lives in the apartment behind us really likes Faces of Stone, because every time we start doing it, he starts like throwing shit against the wall. That's all I'm saying.
That's a harsh critique.
It is.
Who doesn't like Faces of Stone?
That guy.
Well.
Anyway.
So, I mean, I guess some sort of positive things that are just generally narratively positive is that it does kind of, unlike a lot of the movies, really just kind of show the Empire being dicks to people in general. We do get a little of that.
That's true.
When they do so, they have bad overdubs. This seems to be a problem in the Empire, is matching your lips to your words.
Except for the Art Carney scene.
Right, yeah.
When he's just, okay, that guy's voice is amazing.
Yeah, I'm not interested in fish.
I eat fish. It's great. I thought he was like being put through a machine until I saw his face, and he's not.
No, it's being put through a mustache.
That's true.
That was quite a potent stash.
Yeah.
It's really good. And B. Arthur is magical.
I mean, watching I got a little teary-eyed watching it this time. Like
the Arthur sequence is kind of, it has some of the elements of quality entertainment.
Well, she's just wonderful in anything she does, so there's that.
She is.
You know, and there's also that this is kind of a return to the Mos Eisley Cantina, and while it is clearly the worst view of the cantina we've ever seen, it's still fun in that sense.
Yes.
And I mean, just on a personal level, I love that it is a completely weird scene. I mean, you know, you have Harvey Korman coming in again as this lovelorn character that wants to pour drinks into his head and be rejected by the Arthur. And then, you know, she's goading people to drink. You have the Empire declare a curfew randomly. And then she kind of sweetly ushers them all out with song. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, the song itself, I wish were better. If the song itself were better, I might be able to get behind the sequence a little more. But obviously, B. Arthur herself is great. And there is something sort of touching about the idea of, like, closing time at the Mos Eisley Cantina, you know, we're closing down for the night. It puts us in a sort of traditionally sentimental showbiz mode about a familiar Star Wars location that isn't normal in the saga. And yes, I can understand why you were moved by it. And it's not without it flirts with, you know, watchability.
Well, I mean, also, I feel like watching it this time, I realized that this movie really is rife for a kind of late night art house, Rocky Horror, The Room kind of treatment where, you know, lots of people show up and comment on what they're viewing. And then
I think that would be fun if people like, there was a set dialogue.
Exactly. I mean, I think you'd have to get a team of writers together, and hey, we might even know some of those, to kind of create a script to watch this along with. And, you know, I think it could actually be a hell of a lot of fun as a social thing.
I think it could be a choose your own adventure kind of thing. So if it's like, if you pick, this is what Lumpy's saying, turn to page 4. And then you and that's the rest of the dialogue. But if you think Lumpy's saying, I gotta take a shit, you turn to 7. I'm sorry, I'm so vulgar. But if you, I'm not. But if you say Lumpy's saying, I miss my dad, you turn to page 7. Or if you say Lumpy's gonna say, I'm gonna jump out of this tree, whatever. I think that's how it would work. Let's do it.
Okay, we'll make it happen.
We got nothing else.
Lumpy's. Choose your own adventure.
I read last night that when George Lucas asked Carrie Fisher if she would do the commentary tracks for the Star Wars DVD collection, and she is wonderful on those commentaries, she agreed to do it if he would let her have a videotape of the Star Wars holiday special, because she said she wanted it for parties when she's trying to get people to leave.
So, okay, I have not confirmed this. It was just in a video I was watching while preparing for this, but apparently Carrie Fisher stipulated if she was going to do this, she wanted to sing a song. Yeah. And that was her, which I find surprising.
Well, I mean, her parents are Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher. She sings briefly in some of her later film appearances, but she always seemed to be like
this. And she has a beautiful voice.
She has a good voice. Mm-hmm. And she always seemed to be this kind of singer who never got a big singing role in anything. And I think that might have been part of it. I also read last night that, conversely, Mark Hamill refused to perform a musical number as Luke. They really wanted him to.
Let's talk about Luke's makeup. Luke's makeup. We had a thing about it last night. We were like, oh my God, how much makeup is Luke wearing?
Yeah.
So my theory is he'd already been in the car accident at this point, right?
I was just going to ask that. I don't know.
Not sure.
Well, I think if they were, I know that they were filming or at least starting pre-production on Empire when this was in production.
He doesn't look as cute in this.
No.
And he doesn't look as 80s boyish.
But he doesn't have a scar.
Yeah, I don't see the...
Doesn't he have a thing here?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it's just the difference between like TV makeup and, you know, like whatever they thought they needed to do for him.
I mean,
but yeah,
eyeliner can you put on somebody? I don't even wear that much eyeliner.
He really looks like a Ken doll.
If someone, you know, told me that was a drag king trying to look like Luke Skywalker, I wouldn't, you know, question what they were. It's possible.
Speaking of Ken dolls and Barbies, it's Mitzi and her husband. What's her husband's name? Mitzi and something Walsh.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who wrote the Ewok movie. Is that right?
This was written by Mitzi Welch. This was written by many people, actually, including Bruce Valanche.
Right.
And also Pat Proft, who's a very accomplished screenwriter. He wrote Real Genius, among other things.
Love it.
And a bunch of the Zucker brothers, you know, Naked Gun and Hot Shots, those movies. Yes, Mitzi Welch, Pat Proft, Leonard Rips, Bruce Valanche, and Rod Warren are the writers of this.
Mitzi's husband is named something like, that sounds like Barbie and Ken wrote this. And I was like, oh, okay, that's their name, Mitzi and somebody else. Of course, this is bad.
Ken Welch. Yeah, Mitzi and Ken Welch.
Do you want to watch something written by Mitzi and Ken Welch? No.
Yes, I do. I want to watch everything written by Mitzi and Ken Welch,
including their grocery lists.
Oh my God, please.
Yeah, what if Bruce Vilanch said something really funny about it?
He did, yes, in How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, he's quoted. I think that's where we saw some quotes from him talking about it. He said that Carrie Fisher was in her Joni Mitchell period at this point. Mm-hmm. He's a funny guy, of course.
He said something about fat people, didn't he?
Oh, right. He said the Wookiees in the special sound like, this is how he put it, fat people having orgasms.
Does he have direct experience to confirm this?
Yes.
He is a rotund individual and can say that. He has license to say that. I do.
And maybe even recordings to prove
it. I think that's pretty much what he said. I could have, like he said, I could have provided the soundtrack for this.
Show me some pornography and I'll give you Wookiee sounds.
Exactly.
That's a good segue. But on a personal note, I was about 15 to 17 before I realized that Wavy Gravy and Bruce Vilanch were two different people.
Who's Wavy Gravy?
Oh, you just look it up. You'll understand. Anyway.
I thought Wavy Gravy was a drug.
Well, it's an ice cream and it's a person, so it could be a drug. Anyway, nobody knows who Wavy Gravy is, so that makes me feel bad. Anyway, go ahead. So the pornography. Let's talk about jerking off.
Okay.
Oh, Diane Carroll. The Diane Carroll.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God. How did it happen? How did it happen?
And so many people, like, even just in the scene that was filmed, were like, yep, this is what we're doing. I mean, you know, it's... Art Carney was like...
Yeah, well, you're going to like...
Hey, I gotta... Like, it was just...
Yeah, it is truly that Diane Carroll sequence in this special is, I cannot begin to wrap my mind around the fact that it exists, how it happened, how anybody allowed it to happen, very much including Diane Carroll herself.
And can we also talk about how, you know, it's like it's fairly prophetic too. Like, I mean, at the time there was pornography, but there wasn't home video pornography, and someone said, hey, you know what big hairy beasts in the future might have?
What was it called? It's called a mind
evaporator.
Oh my God. And then like her outfit, the kind of like the beady.
I want that.
It's kind of great.
It's very 20s, actually, the way she's dressed.
Yeah, it's a little Erte. Erte designed that shit.
Right.
And I also like that whole sequence, while it is ludicrous, it also reminds me of how I kind of love that 70s blue screeny, fadey, psychedelic sweetness. Like there's something about that that's fun.
I think that it's Itchy's mouth that makes it so bad.
Yes. Every time they cut to him and he's sort of chewing with pleasure. Oh.
He's got a really bad mouth in the first place. So it's like underbite, it's major underbite. You can't see his eyes anymore. All you see is his mouth, and then going and it's like, okay, you are jerking off to Diane Carroll right now.
Well, and also like we don't know, you know, like I guess like cultural relativism and all of that. But to me, if you're going to watch something like that, Itchy, perhaps make sure your grandson isn't 5 feet away.
Yeah, go to your
watching you touch yourself under your pelt.
Who gave that to him?
Art Carney.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's why you were saying Art Carney's all excited about it.
Yeah, Art Carney says like, oh, you're going to like this. Like Gleason and I, we used to spend hours with this thing.
And then he gives Lumpy just the holographic tumblers, right?
Right. Yeah. Who are aesthetically really kind of weirdly interesting to me, but boring as all hell.
Yeah.
They're jumping around and juggling.
I like acrobatics, so I actually enjoyed it because I like watching them like jump on each other and do things that I can't do. But I like Stomp, and I like Blue Man Group, you know, and I like Palobolus. So it's not easy to entertain me.
Yeah, they're kind of subpar in that sense. But, you know, Itchy's only like 50 years old. He hasn't seen anything yet.
He's 50.
He is a very unappealing character in general. Just the way he looks and acts.
Oh, I meant Lumpy. I meant because Lumpy's the one watching that.
That's
He's
Lumpy.
young, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah, but Itchy is really unpleasant, even when he's not gumming to the.
And I just can't imagine like how many people in the studio said, "Yeah, do that to the lower jaw."
Who played Itchy? You know?
I could find out. I may even have the Wikipedia page right here.
I looked up last night while no one's doing that. I looked up, tried to look up the fellow who played the green trumpety guy. You know, the green.
Oh.
I tried to look him up and was like, I really want to see what he's doing now. Could not find him. It seems to be a very common name.
Paul
Gale played Itchy.
Yeah, Itchy. Paul Gale.
Paul Gale.
Yep.
And
also in the Bay City Roller show Lord of the Rings in 1978.
Oh, well.
So he makes a practice of this sort of thing.
It seems that he kind of does horrific television.
Wanting something like that Diane Carroll thing snuck into a family holiday special. The way it's supposed to work is this is something that, you know, maybe some of the adults will catch up on the mild eroticism here. But it's also presented in a very innocent way as part of this family special.
Which Pee Wee Herman is perfect at doing.
Yeah, very much so. However, Pee Wee Herman, you would never have had a line like, "Oh, I see you are excited."
Oh, we are excited because I'm your fantasy.
I am your pleasure.
If I walked up to some guy and I said, "I'm your pleasure, experience me."
Here we are.
I mean, she's subtle.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
That's all I'm saying. If you walked up to a guy and said that, am I frozen?
No.
Noah's frozen from my Noah
okay.
is no. Now you're okay. We seem to have some jumps. Okay, I have a question that, like, first of all, we'll talk about the cartoon segment in a little more detail, I'm sure. But I just have a continuity issue, or really more of an in-world question, which is why are there cartoons about the Rebel Alliance being distributed in digital format throughout the galaxy?
Yeah, that is.
Because Lumpy is watching this cartoon about Luke and Han and Chewie and Boba Fett on his little thing, which I think we can presume he didn't make himself. And right. I doubt any of the rebels had time to make that. I don't really understand what media entity is saying, you know what little furry kids like these days? Terrorists.
The cartoon sequence is interesting. I mean, it's not that it's so great, but it does feel more like a fully realized creative idea than the rest of the special. And it is the only part of the holiday special that has been officially released by Lucasfilm as an Easter egg on one of the Star Wars Blu-ray releases.
And I mean, in its own way,
the debut of Boba Fett.
It is, and it was the first time that any of us saw him. And as we mentioned in our last episode, he is using the weapon that we see on The Mandalorian in the new trailer. That there's a little tidbit there.
And I read that the way he was styled in the movie depended a lot on the way the cartoon did it. And like you have to scuff him up a little bit because he was scuffed up in the cartoon, and he had a more simplified color scheme in the cartoon, but they kind of kept it for the movie. And I mean, that's interesting that, you know, it's George Lucas says, like, you know, he kind of tosses off Boba Fett, and he says, like, yeah, if I'd known he was going to be this important, I would have given him a better death. But he introduced him in this, so clearly he was going to be important, right?
I don't know. I guess it seems to me like he was meant to be an important toy more than anything.
I mean, he is important in the story of The Empire Strikes Back. It's just that he doesn't have a lot of screen time. You know, he's not a compelling character, except in the sense that we don't know much about him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is what's compelling about him, is that he's a mystery, and you can add whatever spice you want to that tofu.
But I could see how they might have been like, oh, well, we've got this new villain in the sequel that we're working on now. We can give you a little preview of him in this cartoon.
And they also did that with the figure of him. Like there was a lot of Boba Fett foreplay going on.
It is interesting that this cartoon, like, it seems very much like an ancillary product of its own, much like the Droids and Ewoks cartoons of the
I think it was animated by the same people that did Droids and Ewoks.
It looks like
or at least Droids, maybe not Ewoks. That might have been a different studio.
I agree. 3PO and R2 look very similar.
Yeah, so I think this might have been their first gig, and then they went on to do that.
But it's very interesting that this cartoon actually, I mean, if it were appearing in any other context, you wouldn't have the voices of Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Carrie.
No.
Maybe Anthony Daniels.
Of course. He's a whore.
I have a question for Marc-Anthony.
Yes. I have an answer for Amanda Sisk.
You like the mystery of Boba Fett, and you enjoyed that. How did you feel then when he was explained so much?
Well, okay. I feel like the mystery of him is why a lot of Star Wars fans really loved him. That wasn't as much the appeal for me. And in fact, I was never a huge Boba Fett fan. Like, I liked him enough, but I wasn't one of the huge Boba Fett diehards that was pissed off.
The fetishists?
Yes, the fetishists.
And they were pissed off when he got a backstory?
Some of them were, and I kind of understand that. Like, for them, it was, about the mystery, or they had a very specific thing they wanted him to be, and when he wasn't that, they were pissed off. I kind of liked the Boba Fett we got in the prequels. I liked the way that was explored enough, and I really enjoyed some of the Boba Fett stuff in the Clone Wars thing too. So I don't know. I just like any kind of Boba Fett thing. It's fine, but I'm not like, I don't have something I want Boba Fett to be or not to be.
Well, they certainly made up for Boba's death with Jango's death.
By making him also have a
boom, and his head comes off. It's just great.
It's great for Sam Jackson, but it still kind of shows that the Fetts don't die well. They,
No.
After Jango was kind of a badass for like a half a movie, he just gets his head cut off unceremoniously. But it was by Sam Jackson.
No, and where did his head go? Really, is it in the helmet that Boba picks up and looks at? Is his head still in there?
What you don't know is that Mandalorians, their heads are actually decorative. It's not a real head. It's just there to make it less awkward to interact with other humanoids. So once they're beheaded, it's just kind of a deflation thing of that balloon head.
All right, so that's a different movie. Sorry.
Totally, yeah. But it was pertinent. But I mean, anyway, that said, I feel like this cartoon, like I love the visual style of it. And it's completely weird, especially Han Solo's face. What on earth is going on with Han Solo's face? It's like, let's take Harrison Ford, make him a cartoon, and then kind of stretch his face like taffy.
It reminds me a little bit of Yellow Submarine, the style of the animation and the drawings, especially the shot of the Falcon like going under that. I don't remember even what it was in the story.
Kind of like Jello Sea.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was also oddly sexual. There was some weird penetration going on there.
Yes.
There's a lot of Freudian things in this cartoon. But I just think I love the colors. I love the design. I kind of like the beats of it. It's really fun to watch.
Luke is very gullible in that cartoon. He just accepts Boba Fett's friendship so unquestioningly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Luke is just a farm boy from a poor family.
Sparing his life from this monstrosity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How about the Life Day event?
Well, let's go back a little bit from there. And talk about why Chewbacca is not with his family. And it's because Harrison Ford saved his life, so now he's beholden to Harrison Ford. Because I don't like that idea.
I mean, I guess that would be the predominating idea. Theoretically, or I guess technically according to canon, Chewie has a life debt with Han, and therefore, has to protect Han, blah, 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 blah.
I feel like he wants to be at home.
But he can't.
I don't think he does. I think he does want to be with Han, but then if I start thinking like, well, yeah, it's like Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you do encounter that idea here and there, I think, in the Star Wars extra mythos, like that Chewie is kind of um, in a sort of servile position with Han because he owes him a life debt, as Qui-Gon Jinn might say, which is a little uncomfortable. I always liked the idea that they were just best friends, and that's what their relationship was. But it also, you know, in the holiday special, unlike in the Star Wars movies, there is a little bit of a suggestion that Wookiees are considered kind of second-class citizens by the more human characters. Art Carney says, like, I know he's just playing it up for the sake of the Imperial officer, but he says, like, oh, wait till you see all the stupid stuff I sell to these Wookiees. He talks to them kind of like they're dogs, you know, let's have a smile, you know, give me a kiss, Mala, you know. It's a slightly uncomfortable thing to have the Wookiees presented as this, I don't know, vaguely inferior race as far as the human characters are concerned.
I mean, that was a predominant thing in a lot of the extended universe stuff prior to the prequels coming out, I guess. That the Wookiees were an enslaved race, and Han had saved Chewbacca from slavery, and you know that was part of why Chewie stuck by his side. But
if you walk into a room full of those three people or things, those three walking carpets, and they were all going at each other, wouldn't you think you were a little superior to them?
No, I would just think I don't talk Wookiee, and can I get some nose plugs?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about the way it's handled in the holiday special that gives me a weird feeling. That is successfully avoided in the films.
But I mean, it is interesting that you have this this salesman who's basically like, I'd better affect racism or my friends here are going to get arrested. Like it's a weird kind of layer that you wouldn't normally see in a variety show.
No.
Right. Yeah, also the concept of Life Day. I mean, it does have, and there is this aspect to George Lucas and to Star Wars that is a little tied into the anti-Vietnam peace and love hippie movement. And mostly that is kind of in the distant subtext of the original trilogy. But here we really do confront that, partly because the special is so very 70s in a way that none of the movies are. And also because this idea of Life Day, it sounds very much like something progressive children might be given, like, here's a secular celebration of life. We're not going to get sucked into the commercialism of Christmas or the, you know, the religiosity of other holidays or Christmas itself. Life Day is what we celebrate.
Yeah.
And it's just the Wookiees that celebrate it, right? Or is it?
No. The Life Day is a mobile holiday. It is celebrated on the same day. I don't know how you calculate that with all these different planets, but I guess, you know, the same day every year, but on a different planet. That was just the Kashyyyks.
That's right. Because they didn't give them any notice. That's something I wanted to talk about. They just, okay, this is like when the king is going to come visit your estate, or he's going to stop on the way somewhere. You have to do all this planning. You have to get all this food. You have to set everything up. But you're about to have an entire, hello, Cooper.
Hi.
Hey, Cooper. Hey, Cooper.
They're about to have Life Day, which is this huge planetary celebration. And while they're on the way there, they're like, hey, guys, you're the hosts of Life Day.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, are they not supposed to prep or anything?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, all you really need to prep is to iron your gown, your big red gown.
Do they ever wear clothes any other time? Does Chewbacca?
The only time Wookiees wear clothes is when there's more than 20 of them, in which case it's cost prohibitive to be naked.
Huh. So it's the same as lawyers.
Interestingly, yeah.
Okay, so.
So, I mean, this whole surreal sequence is, to me, it's the crowning achievement of this stupid movie. Like, it just segues into nonsensical Wookiees walking in these weird culty file lines, and Carrie Fisher possibly on cocaine. singing, you know, a not that great song with her voice sounding alternately kind of beautiful and cracking here and there.
Right.
She's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it's, you know, like now in this idiom, I saw them, I was like, oh, it's The Handmaid's Tale.
The red robes.
Red Rose.
Yeah. It is interesting, Carrie Fisher's song at the end, as well as B. Arthur's song, they both take some John Williams Star Wars music and sort of incorporate it into the underscoring, the accompaniment figure for these songs.
And we were all asking for that.
Well, you know, it is an interesting idea. I'm not saying it comes off successfully. I don't really think it does, but you know, it easily could have been even worse, like a Bill Murray lounge singer.
Was that before or after this?
It must have been after. I would think after. Well, we should check that. But you know, it's not Carrie Fisher going Life Day, celebrate Life Day. You know,
if only it had been that.
It would have been better.
Honestly, it is more successful in the B. Arthur song because the cantina theme keeps coming back in as a refrain. It comes in slower and more haunting. And had it been done with more skill, it would have a little bit of this spooky sort of quasi-Weimar quality of some of the songs in Cabaret. Like, you know, the way the keeps coming back more ominously each refrain. Yeah, it's not a bad idea, you know. And in general, if you're writing musical numbers for a Star Wars holiday special, in addition to wondering what's become of your life, you might have that idea to use the theme.
Like, you would pause for a second if you were asked.
You're right.
No,
of course you're right.
Could you please write musical numbers for a Star Wars holiday special?
I'll have them for you tomorrow.
Now, do you think B. Arthur would actually have the presence and be able to run that bar?
No, do you mean B. Arthur herself?
Yeah. Well, you know, like sending people home and all that stuff. I mean, like, I feel like, you know, you walk in and you just get your arm chopped off, basically. Does she care?
The cantina is a friendlier place here than it was in episode 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we also don't know, like, what she's got under that gown. She might, you know, have like some extra tentacles or something that can really fuck somebody up if they don't obey.
And she was Maud.
Right. So we know that she at least has scathing sarcasm on her side.
Yes.
Right.
So let's talk about, this happens, the convention they have for the variety show is everybody's on these screens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Art Carney. That's not on the screen, is it?
No, he's in the, well, you do see him on a screen.
But in the
store. But for the most part, he comes to their home and helps them there.
Okay, and Harvey Korman's like a TV show.
Right.
Right.
And
or a couple different TV shows. And
Diane Carroll is the mind evaporator.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how about Jefferson Starship?
Yes, Jefferson Starship. I clarify here because I don't know this. Were they the evolution of Jefferson Airplane, or was it? Okay.
Yes, and I've never been so happy to not see Grace Slick somewhere. It would have destroyed me. They're the ones, you know, they after Jefferson Airplane, which is a brilliant, brilliant band, then they come out, they change and they come out with We Built This City. It's not good. Anyway, go ahead. I keep going off track because
okay, I'll go off track for a second more. When I was a kid, I thought that there was we lived in Ohio and there's this place called Tip City. And as a kid, I thought that Tip City was built on rock and roll. I didn't, and I was very young and confused, and I was thinking, like, how can you use rock and roll as like a cornerstone for a city? I don't understand how that's going to make buildings or anything. This is not an urban planning thing.
We built Tip City on rock and roll.
Yeah.
We built Tip City.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're all going to be singing that all night.
We built Tip City on rock and roll. Say you don't know me.
All right. So Jefferson Starship. Yeah. So what?
Light the Sky on Fire, I believe, is the song.
Yeah. Which is, as far as I can find, the only song from the holiday special that one can download on Amazon, because I've looked.
And because they wrote it, and it was a single. They put it out as a single with another thing on the B-side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if you're listening to that on vinyl, you don't get the full effect of those like blue, wavy special effect lines.
No, but it's important that you hear the top and the bottom. So vinyl is really the best way to.
There is no top.
It's warmer.
So who else is there? So have we covered everybody? So Luke is with R2, who was not played by a person, who's completely robotic in this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No Kenny Baker.
And then you see Leia. Who else? Is there anybody else we see on the screens?
And we barely, on the screens. Well, there's, a couple of Imperial commanders or whatever that are being officious.
They really don't search the house well at all.
No, they're not good at their jobs.
They never are.
Art Carney sits down in front of Jefferson's starship, and he just sits and really enjoys it.
Yeah, they really are easily distracted, those Imperials.
I mean, canon doesn't say this explicitly, but everybody who works for the Empire is an idiot.
Yeah.
Except for Galen Erso.
But he wasn't really working for the Empire.
No, he's just a sad man.
We also have the stormtrooper that Han Solo was able to just kind of like wah 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 into falling to his death. Like he just.
That was interesting. I was wondering if that was a decision that, like, on this holiday TV special, Han's not going to shoot a stormtrooper. Like, we're not going to see a stormtrooper killed.
Right.
He's just going to fall out of the frame.
Well, what's interesting though about this is that in the special edition of the holiday special, the stormtrooper tries to knock him off the rail.
Making it plainly an act of self-defense.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harrison Ford is kind of amusing in this special because even in his greatest performances, which are indeed great, he always has like at least a 25% like, this guy doesn't want to be here kind of quality about him. In the holiday special, he's got to deliver lines like, "You sure are an important part of my life, pal.
You're like family to me." Yeah. Longing looks into the creepy faces of these Wookiees.
I know.
Let's talk about the Wookiee outfits, though. Let's talk about Lumpy.
Oh,
okay.
The hair, like they've got the hair that starts like down here.
Yeah.
It's like weird wig. Like
his mouth shape is bizarre. It's this.
It's like a clamshell.
He kind of looks like a furry version of. Do you remember Twiggy from? Was it Buck Rogers? No. Yeah, I think it was Buck Rogers. Whatever, the beat robot. Do you remember that guy?
I don't know.
Okay. There was in.
So what makes Lumpy so creepy compared to Chewbacca? Let's think about how they look different and what they messed up. So I think a lot of it is that the hair starts down here.
That doesn't help. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have any, like, because Chewbacca has facial definition.
Yes.
That kind of gives him some character. Lumpy is just this kind of like bowl cut that never stops, except that there's creepy eyes in there.
He's like a shepherd.
Yeah.
A human shepherd. But Mala looks the most like a Wookiee because she was based on a costume they were already building for Chewbacca.
And I think Mala doesn't look bad in general. I mean, compared to the other, and other than the like weird lipstick they give her because she's a woman.
Yeah.
We couldn't give her titties, so there's lipstick.
Yeah, so she has lipstick and watches cooking shows.
Mm-hmm.
And her, her father-in-law or her father.
I guess it's her father-in-law.
Oh,
he sits there and cooks and cleans and puts lipstick on while he sits in the living room having some sort of weird Wookiee gasm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's what life is like on Kazook.
Very forward.
I mean, why even would a Wookiee find Diane Carroll attractive? Wouldn't it be a fantasy with a female Wookiee or even a male Wookiee?
I think that's just racist, and everyone should find Diane Carroll attractive.
Oh, I can't disagree with that.
We don't have. Marc-Anthony and I don't have a problem with mixed relationships.
No,
you might.
I do not, but I find it a little strange that this elderly Wookiee, like Diane Carroll, is what his mind creates as like the ultimate mate in this mind evaporator. Isn't it interesting, too, that Diane Carroll, as, you know, I mean, yes, as you point out, Marc-Anthony, she is undeniably a very charismatic and attractive performer with a great voice, although the song she sings is less than great. But I mean, it is nothing but uncomfortable from the moment that sequence begins. You could not, even if you wanted to, you could not possibly derive, you know, sort of feelings of titillation from it. It's more like,
well, you couldn't, but clearly
okay,
you could.
You're right.
I mean, we don't know what's going on in that mind, and obviously we've been given a peek, and we still don't get it.
So that's the thing that we read about last night too, is that George Lucas didn't see it until it was too late.
Yes.
So he took his name off of it.
Yes.
Doesn't
And
he-
who can blame him?
Doesn't he need to mind the store more closely, though? I mean, Star Wars is kind of a big thing in his life.
But I think at that point, who knew? They got a sequel, but what did that mean?
Apparently, he considered it a real learning experience. You know, he said he was questioned about it at some point in the early 2000s after it returned to prominence because of YouTube and stuff, and it was impossible to keep it buried any longer. And his exact quote, I believe, when asked about it was, "That's one of those things that happened, and now I have to live with it." And it was the last time he surrendered that much creative control over a Star Wars product. You know, from then on, he is the control freak George Lucas that we all know.
But we still got the Ewok Adventures.
I know.
And none of them had Diane Carroll being sexy.
The Ewok Adventures are not as entertaining as the holiday special. It is true.
No.
No, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
That is his name? The little guy in the Ewok who's like really happy and he runs really fast.
Oh, Teak? Yeah.
Teak.
Teak.
I could watch a whole movie about him.
He's a blurg, right? That's what
He's
a blurg.
cute.
He's
No.
really-
A blurg is the big lizards with big heads. They look like chicken lizards.
Oh.
Teak is the little like Ewok-like fast guy.
I love that guy, and he's
He's so cute.
sweet. And when Wilford Brimley, this really got me. It really did. When Wilford Brimley and he were saying goodbye to each other, I got choked up.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want this little thing to have to be alone, and he clearly had been friends with Wilford Brimley the whole time Wilford had been there, which must have been a very long time because his partner was like nothing but bones.
Right.
This little thing, he has no friends now. I mean,
But I mean, he must have understood that Wilford Brimley had oatmeal commercials to make
and diabetes.
and diabetes to warn everyone about. It was his calling.
I didn't care that Wicket and the girl, what's her name? I don't even remember. Her
Sindel, yeah, I did, whatever. That gilded hussy.
I kept calling her Cindy.
Yeah.
I didn't care that she and Wicket were leaving each other.
No.
Also, this little Cindy lady, her whole family gets killed, and within like 3 minutes, she's fine.
She's fine. She's fine. She's got a talking teddy bear. What else do you need?
And if I had a bracelet that said whether my family was dead or alive, I would not wear it.
It's a very strange thing to give a child, is it not?
It is. It's like,
here you go, honey. This will let you know if any of us should die while we're apart from you. You'll know. Isn't that comforting?
so that you can, yes, you can get, it's like, I don't understand. It's like sitting in a room with your whole family waiting for somebody to die. It's horrible. Like, I don't want to, I'll find out later.
Speaking about things that don't make sense, though, holiday special, I was confused by the fact that Han and Chewie go to Kashyyyk for this, and then all of a sudden Leia and Luke are just there.
Did
Right.
they, and they just got through the blockade really fast.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they're just celebrating all of a sudden and doing the whole, everybody's cuddling and...
Some of the stuff with Han on the Falcon, you know, you do have brief moments of seeing what it might have been like if they had tried to make a TV special that felt a little more like the first Star Wars movie. And I mean, someone who didn't know about the holiday special, if you just showed them those clips with the Millennium Falcon part, maybe a little bit of the ending, you know, they're like, oh, what is this? This is obviously New Hope era Star Wars product with the original cast. What's going on here?
You would not expect to see psychedelic Wookiee porn or bad commercials or...
I do want to go back to the first Ewok movie.
Okay.
And the very beginning of it. When they're trying to find the children who have suddenly left don't leave the ship, they left the ship. And they go, well, I'll check I'll check the capsule again, or I'll check the cabin again. And you think he's going to go walk away and look at something big? But they don't. They turn to this thing that like is about this size, and they start shining flashlights in it and go, oh, I'll check this again. I mean, come on. That's how much effort they're going to put into this. And that's what I realized when I first saw it. I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to have to live with this whole time? Mm-hmm. Somebody going, oh, let me look for them. Can't find them. It was terrible. Also, Mace in the first one was much younger than Mace in the second one, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, there were a couple of years between filming, and, you know, he was like 12 or something when they made it, so he aged. Also, Mace is, I have to say, like one of my weird shame things, because when I was a kid, when that movie first aired, I thought he was hot as hell. I had this huge, you know, and I was like a couple years younger than him or something, and I just thought he was the hottest guy ever. And so when I was an adult and this was released on video, I was like, oh, I'm going to go see my my young crush. And I looked at it and I was like, man, kid, Macon, you did not know what was cute.
I'm going to say that this is close enough.
Oh. Okay. Well, I could have easily said that about Harvey Korman, but...
he is your fantasy. Enjoy him.
How old is this little girl, do we think?
Like, I don't know, 6, 7?
Can we talk about her outfit a little bit?
Sure. Because it is...
It's very 80s. Mm-hmm. It's like the leggings and the shoes and all that, and it's very 80s, but even when I look at 80s stuff now, I'm like, okay, that's fine. It looks fine. But it's a really bad costume.
Yes.
It's really, really bad.
It has just a touch of Luke Skywalker and a little bit of Tatooine / Jedi style to it.
Yeah. But she's just, there's nothing about her that's...
But it does have a little bit of aerobics class and angel, too. Like, it's a weird...
It's aerobics. She looks like she went to an aerobics class and then ran into a Jedi and said, oh, are you cold? Here, wear this.
Yeah.
Speaking of costumes, and back to the holiday special, Art Carney, I couldn't help but notice, wears a vest as his immortal Ed Norton character on The Honeymooners did. Do you think that was deliberate? Is that a Honeymooners reference? People like to see Art Carney in a vest. We're going to give him Art Carney in a vest.
I mean, if you're going to have Art Carney, you got to show off the chest fur, right?
Put him in a vest.
Otherwise, why is he there?
I don't think anybody thought that deeply about anything when they were making this.
Maybe Art Carney himself was partial to vests, and chose to wear one as Ed Norton, and then...
Well, in terms of like what people were thinking, from what I can tell, the designers, the set people and costume people were seriously doing the best work they thought they could, and they're like, yes, we're making a Star Wars thing. And so they really worked hard to do the best they could. And then there was a first director that left after just a few days of shooting.
Right.
Yes.
And he was, he didn't understand, he was a TV director.
I think he was a film director, and he didn't know what to do with TV, I think.
His name was David Akomba, ACOMBA.
And then apparently the next director that came in,
Steve Binder,
couldn't figure out how to set up any cameras based on the sets that were made in order to make it work.
Yeah, somebody said he couldn't deal with multiple cameras.
Because, well, I guess my understanding is that the Chewbacca's family's house, the interior, was like an actual livable environment, and they didn't make a fourth wall hole to film from. So it was really hard to actually get a camera crew and lights and everything in there to make it work.
Well, okay, where was the other one, the Ewok movie, where was that shot?
In Marin County, where George Lucas lives.
And he still didn't drop by.
Well, it's interesting that it doesn't have, I mean, the moon of Endor from Return of the Jedi, we think of those giant redwood-like trees, which we don't really see much of in the two Ewok movies. I do think the Wookiee home on Kashyyyk or Kashyyyk in the holiday special looks very much like the Ewok homes do. It's kind of in a tree. It's kind of a tree house that wraps around a tree. It's very similar. And we have been told in other places that the Ewoks' role in Return of the Jedi was at one point intended to be Wookiees. It was going to be a Wookiee planet. Some have observed that Ewok and Wookiee are very similar. And it is interesting that all this TV stuff involves these two furry races.
The Wookiees and the Ewoks initially, as you said, the Wookiees were supposed to be in Return of the Jedi, filling the Ewoks roles that we saw there. By the time Return of the Jedi rolled along, Lucas felt that since Chewbacca had become so sophisticated and technical and was kind of seen as a character that wasn't as primitive as the Ewoks were, he wanted to emphasize that, like, you know, kind of a local population that isn't as technologically advanced overcoming this empire. And the Wookiees would be seen as too sophisticated to do that.
That makes sense.
So that's why the Ewoks were invented. But yes, it is just a rearrangement of those letters, and they're made smaller and cuter and less into 70s porn.
As far as we know.
As far as we know.
Like, okay, where is the Wookiee genitalia? Marc-Anthony, you have to know this.
I think it's pretty much the same place that our genitalia is.
But we don't see it.
No, not unless, you know, they're aroused.
It's like a dog or a cat.
According to Heir to the Empire, Wookiees also have big claws that come out of their hands. Yeah, they're very Wolverine-y. They can...
Huh. Oh, I'm sorry we never get to see that happen.
Yeah. Although I think that if that were to happen in a movie right now, it'd be similar to the way that suddenly R2 has rocket thrusters.
Right.
Right.
Like spurt oil and set it on fire.
That's it. I do want Chewbacca to spurt oil.
It's true. At this point, we would not accept it.
Itchy does spurt oil. All over Diane Carroll.
We would not accept it at this point if in The Rise of Skywalker, suddenly Chewbacca has claws and a penis.
But speaking of Rise of Skywalker, if we got any other final thoughts on these, kind of questionable Star Wars entries of yesteryear, let's wrap those up and move into some Rise of Skywalker stuff as we anticipate the coming of that new film.
Yeah.
Well, my final thought on the holiday special, I think, is that I want it to be in the so bad it's good category, but I think in order to even feel that way about it, it would have to be edited down to maybe a 30 or better yet 15-minute version, which in which case you could indeed make a fascinating curiosity out of it. But it's like 2 hours long, and the entire first stretch it feels interminable. And that's what prevents me from enjoying it as much as you do, Marc-Anthony. But I only envy you, your enjoyment of it. And it certainly is a curiosity. And anybody who may be watching this who hasn't sat down and experienced the holiday special, I do think you should. And I think you should force yourself to get through the whole thing. It is easier going after the first 45 minutes. Something like that.
First of all, I don't think even 15 minutes would be okay with the way Lumpy looks. Lumpy's just really bad.
My edit would de-emphasize the Wookiees in general.
Yes. Lumpy's so unattractive. And you have to watch this thing like run around, and the woman in the suit kept forgetting she was a woman and was supposed to be a man or boy kid, and it was just like, it's terrible. It's terrible. But I maintain, and part of this is to be funny, but part of it is real, I maintain it is a better piece of work than Solo.
Oh man, okay, all right. I would like to defend Solo, which I think is beautiful, and in some ways, because it references this very obliquely, but it still does reference a fair amount of the Star Wars Holiday Special. And I think the Holiday Special, today at least, is my favorite Star Wars movie. Now, you might say that if, any day I get up and watch a Star Wars movie, that will be my favorite Star Wars movie for that day. But it's been on the top of my list since I first saw it, and in a very sincere way, it is like the Star Wars movie made for me.
Didn't they make a whole lot of merch because they were like, we're never going to be caught without merch again? And so they made a whole bunch of...
There was holiday special merch?
It never was actually made. Kenner was, caught off guard by the popularity of the original film.
Right.
And famously, they didn't have action figures ready in time for Christmas, and they didn't have nearly as extensive a collection as they would have if they had known what a monster hit Star Wars was going to be. So when the holiday special was coming out, Kenner said, "Oh, we're not going to let that happen again." And they had an entire line of like Wookiee action figures and all kinds of holiday special toys ready to go, which then did not see production. Apparently, they were essentially the old Chewbacca figure from '77, painted in various ways.
No, not as exciting.
Not as exciting.
I want a whole, Mala's house playset.
I just want to, and I want to be able to move his mouth up and down.
But anyway, I feel like this is a avant-garde masterpiece. It's not an intentional masterpiece. I don't think anyone said, we're going to go make this completely bizarre variety show sci-fi potluck weirdo thing. But I love every goddamn second of it. And I mean, like, the intro, the unbearable Wookiee speak for so long makes my heart soar. I just love it. It just goes on and on. And I mean, in a similar way to episode 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return, the longer it goes and the weirder it gets, the happier I am. And that's what the Star Wars Holiday Special is. It just keeps having illustrations of the strangest decisions you could possibly make for a show of this nature, and just keeps presenting them to you self-consciously, and it's great.
Just to clarify, it makes your heart soar, S-O-A-R or S-O-R-E?
I fail to see the difference.
Okay, so
I do think that Lucasfilm should release the holiday special officially. I think they should embrace it and lean into the fact that it exists and clean it up. Because
agreed, yeah.
Whatever extent it can be enjoyed, it would be more enjoyable if we had a nice looking version of it with good sound quality.
Yeah.
That would go a long way toward making it a little more watchable. It only exists in bootleg form.
I mean, but that's there is a special kitschy appeal to the bootleg. In like the one that I watch, I have a DVD that I got at some kind of convention or something. I don't even remember where, but I was so excited when I finally got this thing. And it includes all the commercials.
Fighting the Frizzies,
and lots of Union commercials, some of which are genuinely stirring. I'm like, that's right, Union people, go! And this really weird pantyhose commercial where the woman stretches the pantyhose in front of the camera to reveal a vagina-shaped cradle. It's interesting.
I saw that in the Mind Evaporator.
Given the commercials that are on there, Marc-Anthony, who do you think the demographic is that they're talking to?
Well, okay, that was one thing I did notice watching this time, was that there were some toy commercials. All of those toy commercials were aimed at parents, which is completely different from toy commercials today.
Ah.
They were all like, get your kids this toy. Your kids will love there was one, Tobor, the amazing robot toy that your kids will love. Tobor is robot spelled backwards.
Yes, it is. So
that was interesting. But I mean, it really seemed like they were kind of aiming at working class families, which is surprising.
Imagine if you had not seen Star Wars, if you were someone who didn't get to the movies very often, so you missed Star Wars on its release, and then you saw this TV special was coming. Oh, here's a chance to see what all the rage is about.
Yes.
And this could have been your introduction to Star Wars.
I want this to be like, the next person I meet that has not seen Star Wars, I missed my chance with Alina here, because I really wanted to show Alina, I should have said, let's just introduce you with the holiday special. This is the first Star Wars.
The best way to, if you find a Star Wars virgin who doesn't know any of it, the best thing to do, first you show them the holiday special, then you show them the Phantom Menace, then you beat them over the head and dump them in a hole.
I'm sorry. I have so many bingos out that I won. I didn't think this is where it was going to come in, but you were talking about Art Carney. I thought it was going to come about Wookiees, but there you go.
Yeah, it's Art Carney. He's fuzzy.
It's never occurred to me that Wookiees would be more appealing without the hair.
Imagining naked Wookiees actually is kind of horrifying. I'm trying to...
It's like hairless cats.
Yeah, like those Sphinx cats. I'm kind of imagining, you know, a 7'8" tall version of that.
Does Art Carney suggest at one point in the special that Wookiees don't smell good?
Yes. But I mean, I think that was another instance of I'd better look racist in front of the Imperials.
Right.
I bet a wet Wookiee doesn't smell good.
I would imagine you're right.
That's only happened in Solo, I think. The only time we see Chewbacca, like, not looking nice and shampooed.
He's a little wet in the garbage masher.
Oh, yeah.
But that smells bad anyway.
But I mean, you know, statistically speaking, it really is kind of amazing. We have never, ever, ever, as far as I know, at least not in any film or television media, seen Chewbacca looking disgruntled while in a wash basin and people have his hair in curlers and there are suds everywhere. We've never seen that. How is that possible?
I would like to see that.
Yeah.
Or if he's on, you know, Millennium Falcon and he's got a shower cap on and he's like, you know.
Well,
singing in the shower. His favorite Wookiee song, whatever the Wookiee tunes are.
well, wait, you're assuming that Wookiees are like dogs. Maybe they're like cats and they bathe themselves.
Yeah, no, I don't like the fact that, like, Mala may go over to Lumpy and start licking him.
I think Lumpy, Itchy would like that.
Yes. So we're pretty convinced that Itchy is Chewbacca's father.
According to, let's see, hang on, let's confer with the Wookiee storybook.
I'm glad you have that.
Just to be clear here. Well, this is unclear. I'm sorry. It says that Actichukuk is the grandfather of Lumpawarump, which does not really clarify whose father he is.
Not so much.
But I do believe I've heard somewhere that Itchy is Chewie's father.
It seems like it, and I don't know why, but maybe I've heard that. I don't know. I wouldn't have heard that. But.
Well, because we just, you know, like, we know that Chewie puts up with a lot, but I feel like we also know that if that was his father-in-law, he would be like, bitch, get him out of here. I cannot deal with any more of this old man, this dirty old man in my house, even though I'm gallivanting around with this human guy.
But you never see Chewie, like, I mean, he's like, how many years old? Like hundreds of years old? 150?
200 something. 200, yeah.
And you never see him like, I've been away from my family for so long, I'm going to go flirt with this other lady with see-through pants or whatever.
Oh, well, wait, he does. There's a slight flirtation going on in The Force Awakens. The lady that is
Maz
giving him nurse.
Oh, that, yes.
You know, well, yeah, Maz has a crush on Chewie, but we don't know how mutual that is.
I like that Wookiee.
I love that line. I love the way Nyong'o says that. I love that Wookiee.
She's so beautiful.
That is true.
She is so ridiculously beautiful.
And that is really true.
But to go back a little bit, though, I do say that there is one moment in the holiday special that I would hope even the most diehard fan that hates it could still find special and wonderful, and that is Han and Chewie hugging is very warm and sweet.
Yes, it is.
It really, and I gotta say, like, as much as you know Harrison Ford didn't want to be there at all, he has to say some of the most saccharine things in this special, and he more or less pulls it off.
Yeah, he does it. Yes, you know? He earnestly does it. Yes, he does.
He really does, and it's kind of amazing that he's done that.
Do you think it's more or less moving than when he's temporarily blind, and Chewbacca gets him, and he's like, "It's all right, buddy. It's all right."
Oh,
Well, that's sweet too.
that's very.
I mean, Han and Chewie's relationship has always been adorable, but I don't think we've ever seen as open a show of affection between them as that. Like, all right, I'm gonna hug you, buddy. It's cute.
Yes. So Wookiees are very large.
Yes.
When is Lumpy gonna get large?
Well, how old do we think Lumpy is? Because
Oh, it's-
Chewbacca's 200.
Yeah, Lumpy could be like in his 40s.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Lumpy could.
When is he gonna have a growth spurt? You know.
I mean, for all we know, Wookiees have like 18 growth spurts in their life. You know.
Or just one.
Yes, they're Lumpy for like 105 years, and then all of a sudden.
Well, okay, we do see Chewbacca in episode 3. So we know that at least 20 years before episode 4, Chewie was full grown. Unless he is not yet full grown, and we've never seen that.
I guess that's true. But we know, like, in Solo, he's 190.
Right.
So he's, you know, in the original trilogy, he's in his early 200s.
Mm-hmm.
But we've never heard him mention any mention of his family before, right?
I mean, in Solo, there was a brief, vague mention. But in the movies and the other movies, no, there was no mention of his family.
Well, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Indeed. Okay, so Rise of Skywalker. So I know that this makes Amanda very uncomfortable.
Do it.
And I like doing that. I like making Amanda uncomfortable. We went on a really bad date once. Everyone, you should hear the details.
Oh, yes.
I wrote a song about it.
She wrote a song about how bad it was.
It's good stuff.
So some of the fan theories that are flying around. So first of all, this is, I guess, how we want to interpret canon things and how they may relate to films is weird. But in a canon comic book that came out not too long ago, Snoke takes Kylo Ren to Dagobah. And on Dagobah, Kylo goes into the cave that Luke went into and has his own visions. And first he sees Luke telling him that you don't have to follow this path, blah, 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 and he strikes Luke down. He then sees Han and Leia and does not strike them down, or at least not Leia, but he does blow up the cave, making Snoke think that his anger was wonderful, but he actually couldn't bring himself to hurt Leia.
He can't.
Yeah. So this, and of course, like, this is just reflecting some of what happened in The Last Jedi and all of that. But there are a lot of people that are theorizing because of this and other similar things that what we're going to see in Rise of Skywalker is Kylo turning to the light side and Rey turning to the dark, and Kylo ultimately sacrificing himself to save the galaxy.
Okay. I don't read fan theories. But yesterday I told Noah that Rey and Kylo are twins and that the Rise of Skywalker is Kylo. That's what I said.
So what makes you, so do you think Rey is also Han and Leia's
Yes.
kid?
Yes, I do. I don't know.
So how, I mean, I'm not saying I think you're wrong. I'm just curious, like, why did she end up on Jakku?
I think
They're like, we only need one.
I don't know. I feel like they had to split them up again. I feel like they're brother and sister. I don't know. I think it's kind of a Caligula thing going on with him. But I don't know. I do think that Kylo is going to be the Skywalker. But I also think Rey could be the Skywalker, but that means she has to be or Leia and Han's child.
I think the Skywalker's going to be Anakin.
Do you? Because I said that too, but then I was like, I don't want Hayden Christensen anywhere near this fucking movie.
Oh man, I sure do. But you know, we disagree on this. But go ahead, Noah.
Well, for those who may not know, Hayden Christensen and Ian McDiarmid have been seen a lot together in public lately, and the two of them were supposed to do a panel together at a Star Wars or fantasy convention recently, and Disney pulled the plug on their joint appearance at the last minute, which set off a wildfire of fan speculation that perhaps it's because Hayden Christensen / Anakin does appear in Rise of Skywalker, and it's a surprise, and they don't want them
Well, I mean, I would be very surprised if he doesn't appear in Rise of Skywalker.
He's
right?
well, but he could appear as a Force ghost, but that's
right. There are a lot of ways he could appear. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't, and especially considering that Abrams and crew are saying that this is kind of going to be a tie everything together survey of the whole series.
Yeah.
I think that it makes sense. But also, I think that if we're looking at Star Wars as a whole, as a whole saga from Episode 1 to Episode 9, and of course the holiday special being the highlight. It's Anakin's story. It's definitely Anakin's story, and you have to bring him back in some way in the final chapter to seal that up. And also, like, you know, when we were talking about the nature of the Force, and Amanda was asking, you know, how did Anakin bring balance to the Force, or did he bring balance to the Force? I think it's very viable to say that he didn't necessarily, and we need to kind of see that happen in some way for the saga to reach a conclusion.
Don't they know, though, that everybody hated him, right?
Who knows that?
99% of the people hated the prequels and hated Hans Christian Andersen because of, I mean, like...
Yeah, but I mean... I don't know. I think it's kind of moved to a place now where while people still hate the prequels, they love to hate them. And
it gets everywhere.
You know, and I think that if there's a way that you can tie into that and reference that in a winking way and also a sincere way, which I'm not confident J.J. Abrams can do, but I feel like if there's a way you could do that, it could be great.
I agree. I like the idea of course it has to be done well, but I like the idea of seeing Anakin in the last episode, you know, in some way. And I also, although I don't have a lot of positive things to say about Hayden Christensen's performance, especially in episode 2, I don't know, you know, it is what it is. The deed is done. He played Anakin Skywalker in 2 of the Star Wars prequels. He is part of the whole thing. I think it's better to deal with that than to ignore it. And I liked the fact that, like, at one of the Star Wars celebrations, Hayden Christensen made an appearance, his first like Star Wars connected appearance in an official capacity since episode 3. And he got this lovely warm reception from the fans. They were just as happy to see him as they would have been to see, you know, Harrison Ford or a more beloved figure. And he jokingly, like, one of the first questions he was asked was, do you have any opinions about sand? And he said, oh, yeah, it's coarse. It gets everywhere. You know, he can laugh at this stuff, too. And that really did warm my heart. And so provided it's done well, I'm all for it.
Can you guys explain to me why you think, and Noah and I were talking about this before, why is Anakin's Force ghost Hayden Christensen and not Anakin when he turns back to the...
And not Bernard Shaw?
Right.
Right.
Because he was reborn.
Because that's when he was Anakin. From there on, he was Darth Vader, and so any form he took that looks like that wasn't actually Anakin Skywalker.
But don't you think when he was redeemed, he re-became Anakin Skywalker?
He was like, look, I got a choice here, and I'm going to be the hot me. I might have been dumb, but I was hot.
I mean, you have a choice about your Force ghost, then why didn't Obi-Wan be like, you know what, I want to be Ewan McGregor?
It's like picking an avatar, a Bitmoji. Obi-Wan Bitmoji.
But I don't think Obi-Wan ever stopped being Obi-Wan.
We could so sell that. Nobody else can sell that. That's mine. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
So it seems like a lot of the fan theories, there are some major things that and I think fan theories are very dangerous things. I mean, I think that fan theories are what made people hate The Last Jedi. Not the only thing that made them hate The Last Jedi, but one of the major reasons was they thought this would happen, they thought that would happen, and if it didn't, they were upset because this was their theory. So
what are some of the other fan theories?
theory.
I've heard that people express the theory that Rey is not biologically a Skywalker, that she is possibly a Palpatine in some sense, or was an engineering creation of Palpatine the same way Anakin was, but that over the course of the events in The Rise of Skywalker, Rey will choose to call herself Skywalker, will sort of take on the name as a sort of title, and that Skywalker will become a term not unlike Jedi.
I have to say that while I don't ascribe to that specific theory there's a big part of me that just kind of senses that thing that Skywalker means Jedi or like some kind of Force user. It's the rise of a new kind of thinking that's related to this.
Listen, when The Last Jedi, when we first heard what the title was going to be, we all spent the time thinking, oh, who is the Last Jedi? Is it Luke? Is it Rey? Is it Kylo Ren? Who's the Last Jedi? And as it turned out, that is not the question the movie asks or answers. Luke says in the movie, I will not be the Last Jedi, meaning not only that Rey is going to be in some sense a Jedi, but that the Jedi Order will continue in some fashion. So I think there's a very good chance this is another misdirect of that kind. The Rise of Skywalker may not refer to an individual who we know about and can name.
I think a huge misdirect is in the preview, in the trailer, when Rey's wearing the hood at the end and she flicks out the Darth Maul thing. I think that is a huge misdirect. I think that might even be footage we don't see in the movie.
I'd be really surprised if we don't see that, but I would imagine that the context is going to be something that when you see it gives you totally different ideas than what you see in
Darth Maul is coming back?
No, Darth Maul would be dead by this point.
Okay.
Darth Maul dies a little bit before A New Hope.
And that's in the Clone Wars?
That's in Rebels that he dies.
And what about his brother, Paul Maul?
His brother, Savage Opress, who has a very subtle name.
Yeah.
Savage Opress?
Savage Opress, yeah. His brother dies before he does.
Oh.
But
he's kind of the dumb brother, right?
He is. He's the It's interesting because like in the movies, Darth Maul barely talks.
Yeah.
But in Clone Wars and Rebels, he's a bit of a. There's a time for a while where he's crazy, but he seems to be a bit more of an intellectual. In that.
Once you get this shit together.
Yeah. Whereas Savage is just a tank. But so it seems like a lot of fan theories, though, are going towards that. I bet we're going to see Darth Maul in The Mandalorian.
Ah.
How do you know Darth Maul? Oh, it's the Rebels, sorry.
And maybe in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Oh, no, that's right. Not The Mandalorian. Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi. In the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I'd be surprised if we don't see Darth Maul. But it's a little awkward because we know when he dies. We know that Kenobi kills him. And having more altercations between Kenobi and Maul in that series would be weird. And also, you couldn't exactly recreate that fight without including other characters that I assume wouldn't make sense to insert in that series. But we'll see. I'm just happy to see Ewan McGregor playing Kenobi.
Yeah.
Well, now we know that Liam Neeson's not in this movie.
Not yet.
Okay.
He still could.
I mean, because that's the whole thing they're talking about. I'm going to teach you how to commune with Qui-Gon.
The way that I'm looking at it is if Liam Neeson, and I still can't believe this happened, was talked into doing voices for Clone Wars, he's not going to do this. He's not going to hang out with Ewan again. I mean, at least just for the eye candy, Liam.
I would think there's a strong possibility, at least.
Yeah. And I also think enough time has passed since The Phantom Menace for him to be less embarrassed by it and more able to laugh at himself and play that character again.
Since The Phantom Menace, Liam Neeson has made many movies much worse than The Phantom Menace.
That's true. Yeah. He has killed so many people for kidnapping his dog.
He was a prestige actor when he was cast in The Phantom Menace.
Let's be fair about this and bring a little sad note in. He started doing only action movies, really bad action movies after his wife died.
Yes, you're right.
And that's all he did. That's all he's done since then. Really, is that. So we got to give him a little leeway, I think.
I like the guy. I think he's a very good actor. I mean, I'm not a anti-Liam Neeson, but
Really tall.
he is indeed tall.
He walked past me on the sidewalk once, and I was like, wow, that
You
guy's
feel
tall.
the ground shaking and just.
Well, the first thing I thought was, that guy's huge. God, that guy's tall. And then I saw his face, and you see celebrities and outside of where they are, and you can't figure out who they are.
Right. Yeah.
It's like when my friend Hugh walked up to Brad Pitt and said, "Did we do a show together?" I mean, you just don't know who they are. But then after I saw him, I was like, "Oh my God, you're really tall."
Which is what I said to Hugh when I first met him, so it was weird. But so the predominating fan theories, though, about Skywalker, Rise of Skywalker, seem to involve either cloning or possession. Those are the major things going on. And it's really about Palpatine is back. And as I was, thinking about this, I realized that while, I think we all, or at least I certainly love Palpatine in Return of the Jedi. I mean, he's a cackling melodrama villain. He's a lot of fun. The real love I have for Palpatine comes from the prequels. I mean, it really is, Ian McDiarmid's performance as the scheming long game, as Amanda has put it, con man. It's this really brilliant, ineffable scheme he has to take over the galaxy. His performance was great. That character is great. And it's because of the prequels that I cannot wait to see more Palps. I am just like, oh boy, more Palpatine. But how is he going to show up again? And that's a big question.
I'm with you on all of that. And indeed, Ian McDiarmid is consistently one of the real strengths of the prequels.
Well, he has unlimited power.
Unlimited power!
It's so great.
Which is kind of what, the giant says, give me the power.
Yeah, in the Ewok movie.
Yeah.
My little green friend.
So, I mean, the big extended universe nerd in me would not be upset with something that would confuse everyone else, which would be Grand Admiral Thrawn being involved in this.
Who?
So Grand Admiral Thrawn, for those of you not in the know, is a member of the Chiss Ascendancy. He's a blue-skinned alien who is a master strategist that knows how to colonize and overpower societies by studying their art.
It sounds like advertising.
That's basically he's a marketer.
Like what I did for the past 15 years.
He's a marketer, and he knows his demo. Anyway, he is from the Outer Rim territories, the unknown regions where, according to all of the buzz about Rise of Skywalker, that's where the new threat is coming from. And it seems that the new threat is Palpatine. And also, according to a lot of the extended universe stuff and some of the new canon books, Palpatine had a contingency plan if his new Death Star wasn't to succeed. So in Return of the Jedi, apparently, Palpatine couldn't really see the future beyond the Battle of Endor. And was like, okay, so if we fail here, we have to have a fallback plan, and that's going to be something we're going to build in the Outer Rim.
Let's talk about the Outer Rim.
Some people, okay, not the Outer Rim, I'm sorry, the unknown territories, unknown regions.
Everything seems to be described as in the Outer Rim.
Yeah.
What is not in the Outer Rim?
Coruscant.
Coruscant is closer to the galactic central point.
The
but Naboo.
Oh, Naboo is not in the Outer Rim?
No, Naboo is near Tatooine, so it's kind of in the outer territories where there's not as much control. But
What
this
about
outer rim is
where they when Finn and Rose. What planet is that?
Oh, Canto Bight?
That's not in the Outer Rim.
That's not in the Outer Rim, I don't think. No, that's more close to the galactic core.
Right, because it's like District 1 in Hunger Games.
Right, and then you have the corporate sector, which is where Kessel, I think, and a lot of the stuff that happens in Solo takes place.
And is that where
which is sort of like
lives?
The banking clan is at least related to them, I think. But the idea there is that the Empire couldn't really maintain control of everything, so they had to have a kind of corporate place where it's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't embarrass us. The unknown regions, however, we don't exactly know, or I don't know at least where they are, but that's where I guess Palpatine is coming from in this new installment. It's also where Grand Admiral Thrawn disappeared to the last time we saw him in Rebels, where he took one of the last Force-sensitive people with him and a bunch of tentacle whales, like one does. They disappeared into the unknown regions. In the Heir to the Empire novels, which happened long, long ago, Grand Admiral Thrawn was involved in recloning of the Emperor to bring him back. No, that's not even true. No, he found the Emperor's old cloning facilities where there was a clone of an old Jedi. But the idea is that the Emperor had cloning facilities to clone himself in the event that he was killed, and that his essence would re-embody those.
Okay, so Snoke.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, wasn't it Lucas or someone who said, he looks like someone you already know? Right?
I don't remember that.
I remember somebody, like when Force Awakens came out, and it seemed like a very relevant question was like, who is Snoke? Somewhere somebody connected with the movie said something indicating that Snoke was a character that we were already familiar with in some other form, and that his appearance was somehow an indicator. I think that was bullshit, and I think what happens to Snoke in Last Jedi, I think, makes the whole character a bit of a red herring.
I want to believe that too, but a little bit of what Abrams and crew have been saying lately makes me think that they're at least going to try to explain a bit of what Snoke was.
They need to, because it was the entire fucking movie.
I mean, I don't know. I'm with Noah. Like, I don't know if Noah feels this way, but like, I really loved he was built up to be this big villain, and then he was just cut down out of nowhere and isn't that fun. Like, I enjoyed that, but I think it will be surprising if there wasn't some going back and trying to explain what was going on with this.
Well, I just sat there watching him over and over and over again, trying to figure out who he looked like. And the only thing I got to was he looked like Maz. Which that's clearly not what it is.
I mean, he is important in the story. He was the leader, supreme leader of the First Order for a time, and he obviously played a crucial role in the downfall of Ben Solo. So it's not that he's unimportant, but whether he ties into the grander scheme of the saga in some important and undisclosed way, yeah, maybe not.
I think at this point, it almost has to be the case that he was a minion of Palpatine. I think it'd be very surprising if it was anything other than that. It kind of seems like if we're bringing Palpatine back, we're going to have to see him as the big bad of the whole series, and he's been puppeteering everything all along, and Snoke was part of it. I think I'd be surprised if it wasn't some variation on that.
We'll see.
I am really afraid of time travel in Rise of Skywalker.
It's kind of, I mean, like, well, that would be, a little bit, we got this Deus Ex Machina there, but I'm going back to Snoke. If he's nothing, then I don't care if there's time travel. Like, we're not going to explain half the shit, but we say we're going to explain half the shit, and it's about time travel, then I don't know. That doesn't upset me.
I mean, none of this is made any more comfortable by the fact that J.J. Abrams has never ended anything.
You're going to make me sob. Let's not talk about it anymore.
We need to be emotionally prepared, Sisk. We need to be ready for the fact that we could walk into this movie and be dick slapped in a really bad way. It's a possibility.
Number 3 for me. And it would be number 4 if I kept watching Game of Thrones, apparently.
I hate time travel stuff. Not always. Sometimes it's done okay, but I don't want there to be now we're going through the history of all the Star Wars movies and isn't this nostalgic and woo. like that. That's what I'm afraid of, because that's kind of what The Force Awakens was, only not as blatant.
It's not exactly time travel, but I wonder about the use of flashbacks, or the possible use of flashbacks, which have never been a big part of Star Wars storytelling.
Yeah.
But The Last Jedi does have flashbacks in it. We go back to Luke's training of Kylo Ren and that betrayal. And in The Force Awakens, it's not exactly a flashback, but we get a burst of Rey's early childhood memories. Rogue One starts with a prologue set during Jyn Erso's childhood. But I wonder if flashbacks might play a larger role in Rise of Skywalker, which would be one way of time traveling without making time travel an element in the narrative.
I mean, I could deal with visions of some sort that related to events that happened then. A lot of people have been bringing up the world between worlds. So I think it was Rebels, Ahsoka Tano, Vader's apprentice, or Anakin's apprentice, is able to walk into this Force place that is the world between worlds, where you can jump to all these different times and places by walking in a little breezy space music hallway thing that it seems possibly Palpatine has access to as well. If they wanted to go in that direction, I guess they could, but it would just be super confusing for anyone that hasn't seen that.
There were some rumors. What's that?
That's a little more Star Trekian.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is.
it kind of is, yeah.
There have been rumors that Harrison Ford was on the set of Rise of Skywalker. If true, of course, he may have just been visiting. But if Harrison Ford appears in the film, that pretty much confirms that there are flashbacks in it, I would say, because he's not going to be a Force ghost.
No, but he could be a vision that, Kylo or Leia or Luke or anyone are just having, like it could be a thing where they're just thinking about their lost friend.
I don't know how I feel about that, but I know that one of my disappointments, as well as Mark Hamill's disappointments with the sequel trilogy, is that one thing that movies have not done is reunite Luke and Han and Leia. Obviously, Luke and Leia do get reunited in Last Jedi, and it's too late to be reunited with Han in a present story chronology way. But I thought, maybe they figured out some way to do that in the last movie. I have also, of course, fan theories are now just like rampant and wildly speculative. But there's also been in the last week a bunch of Samuel L. Jackson related rumors.
I mean, I'm not going to complain just because, first of all, there's no fucking way Mace Windu is dead. There's no way. He got his arm cut off. Who gives a shit? Grab a droid, fly away.
Yeah.
We've seen this happen.
But there would have to be some explanation why, if he did survive that, why didn't he show up at any time in the last 20 plus years?
Well, none of
He had a gambling habit for a while. It was...
Everybody went into hiding.
I mean, it really is no less of an explanation than why, Kenobi and Yoda were like, shit, we're just going to stay here.
Okay.
Right. So how are you going to feel if Kylo goes to the good side and Ren goes to the dark side? Ren, yeah. Stimpy.
I don't think that's. I mean, I think that might be a passage in the story, but I don't think the movie's going to end with Rey is giving in to the dark side.
That's balance. That's balance right there.
I mean, I gotta say, yeah. And when we think about like how the original trilogy was about someone that started off as being this innocent little kid and turned into the worst monster ever. I can kind of see the end being the opposite of that. This, someone that really wanted to be a monster and ended up turning into the savior of the galaxy.
Well, I believe that there may be a redemption story for Kylo Ren. I think that's extremely likely. But I doubt very much especially with J.J. Abrams at the helm, for better or for worse, I doubt very much that the last chapter of the Skywalker saga is going to end on a down note. Maybe there'll be an ominous thing that suggests that evil will go on, and that okay. But I would be shocked if it's not a mostly happy ending.
Well, do you think, I mean, especially considering a lot of stuff that Luke was doing in The Last Jedi, I think there's a possibility that there's going to be this something to the effect of, hey, dark side, light side, who cares? Let's just fix things.
Mm-hmm.
And
like moving on from the whole premise of the films.
Right.
Well, that's what Yoda did. It was like, everything changes, including us. Well, let's burn this shit down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, I love that scene so much. I can't wait till we get to those movies. But
yeah. That is a great
I don't know. I mean, I will, as hard as I can fight, keep my reservations about Rise of Skywalker until opening day, just because I've never liked a J.J. Abrams anything. And so if I don't lower my expectations, there's no way I can enjoy a Star Wars movie.
JJ, I'm sorry he's saying this. I know you watch our thing, Faces of Stone every
episode. I'll fight you, Abrams. I will fight you. I mean, not as readily as I would fight Michael Bay, whose nuts have my foot written on them.
Okay.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it's not even that personal a thing. It's like I recognize that Transformers was shit from the beginning. But it was shit that I liked, and you found a way to make already bad shit really bad shit.
All right, so you got to say 1 to 10 on the bad shit level. Where's the Christmas special? Where's the Ewok special? And then where's that?
Okay, Christmas special is like, wait, 1 is really good, 10 is really bad?
No, 1 is the shit, yeah.
1 is the
1 is Citizen Kane.
Okay.
And 10 is watching your grandfather poop.
My grandfather was a poop artist, you have to know that.
I knew this wasn't going to work.
But no, okay, I hear you. So, holiday special. And this is a personal response. I'm not saying that general audiences or educated audiences or anyone will. For me, the holiday special is maybe a 3, maybe a 2 or 3. I really genuinely enjoy watching it.
So it's Citizen Kane, and then the Star Wars holiday special.
Okay, if tomorrow I had a day off where I didn't have to do anything, and I was told you can watch Citizen Kane or the Star Wars holiday special,
you'd watch the holiday special.
I would have to think about it at least. And I would certainly ask, can I watch both?
They're very similar.
In structure, in form, in application, in lighting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
so,
I mean...
So you think that Rey really was born of junk traders or who left her behind?
I like that. I like the idea that Rey's parents were no one, and that her accomplishments and powers are just her own.
Yeah, that can still be true, though, with still adding a dimension to her origin. I mean, that can be true, but those can be her adoptive parents, and she could have been either engineered by Palpatine or given up by Han and Leia, or, I mean, I would imagine if indeed that explanation of Rey's origins that Kylo Ren offers in The Last Jedi, if that's not what Abrams and Kasdan had in mind in The Force Awakens, they'll find some way to make their original concept work without violating what was added to it by Rian Johnson.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, but I would like it to stay that way. I think it's a really beautiful little thing.
I do too.
I don't want Rey to turn out to go to the dark side because I really enjoyed seeing all these little girls walking around with Rey hair.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
it's great. They were
That
like showing up at the movie with the ponytail things, and it was just fantastic.
And I mean, it's not just Ray, like all the female pilots, like little girls, like playing like their X-Wing pilots. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like, you know, if we played Star Wars in the neighborhood, there was always a girl that got to be Princess Leia.
And that was it.
And then there was someone else who's like, well, but you're Aunt Beru? I don't know. Like what? Who else are you going to be?
Yeah, you're not going to get told again that.
And I want to be friends with the girl that grows up playing Admiral Holdo.
Yeah, Holdo, Rose Tico. I mean,
She's got a very good personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more strong women. I mean, we've already talked about this, the diversity issue, and it's caused some problems from
Right.
people who.
But it's so important, and it's like it's one of those things where I just feel like if you can't see why you being able to grow up playing like you were not George Lucas, who did that?
Well,
Luke Skywalker or Han Solo, like you want, you know, girls to be able to grow up and be Rey, Rose, or whoever.
Yeah.
If you're mad about that, you're an asshole.
I was told that I could not have a lightsaber for 2 reasons. One, the neighborhood boy, who he's on Facebook and we're not friends.
Mm-hmm.
But he said I could not have a lightsaber because I was a girl. And, oh my God. And there's a cat destroying the room. And my parents said I couldn't have a lightsaber because I'd hurt myself.
oh, they're very safe.
They cauterize the wound.
Ew.
It's like you get medical attention as you're being hurt.
Well, we are really getting there, guys. I mean, we started this series in the spring. It is now midway through the month of September. The Rise of Skywalker will be upon us before we know it.
Yeah, it really is coming right up. And I feel like watching the series in this way has given us a fun perspective.
Yeah, I'm more excited about it than I would be.
Mm-hmm.
We might as well mention as a programming note, a little change to our Faces of Stone schedule. Normally, we should be doing our next episode in which we will discuss The Empire Strikes Back on September 29th, 2 weeks from tonight. But Amanda and I have a show opening in New York City on September 30th. So in deference to that, we're going to postpone our Empire Strikes Back discussion by 1 week. We'll update the website and Facebook and everything. But so Empire Strikes Back episode will actually be on October 6th. And then 1 week after that, we will continue as planned with Return of the Jedi. Hey, we're almost, I mean, and then we'll be through the original trilogy.
We will be.
We'll only have 2 movies and maybe a theme episode or 2 to go before we get to the summit.
Hooray!
Yeah.
That may be the gayest thing I've ever said.
Well, you pulled it off beautifully.
I've been working on my gay stuff.
Excellent.
You're almost.
Okay. What?
You're almost there. You're almost.
I'm trying to get there. It's. I mean, you know, you would think like you kiss 50 guys and you can be perfect gay, but it's not. It's not true.
It's not as easy as that.
No, there's accreditation that you have to. It's way more complicated than anyone ever told me.
Here's a question for you.
Mm.
How much product are you wearing in your hair right now?
I am wearing 0 product in my hair.
Not gay.
I know. But do you remember, like, our mutual friend, the politician Kim Mascaratolo? I have quoted her to many, many people saying that my bathroom dissolved so many gay stereotypes that she had.
Yes.
Because it was filthy and disgusting, and I've never been more proud of my filth.
I think there were also action figures in your bathroom for your bathtub time.
What was that? Who? What?
We had to take because there was, we lived close together and
right.
take a shower at Marc-Anthony's apartment because our water wasn't working.
It happened, yeah.
There were figurines like on the side of the tub.
But I mean, you guys take showers alone? without friends? You don't have little friends to tell you that you're scrubbing right? How do you know if you've gotten your crack? How do you know if you've gotten your butt crack clean?
Lumpy comes.
Oh, okay.
I do love the idea of like being in Marc Anthony's bathroom and thinking, good for you. This isn't at all stereotypical.
This is filthy. This doesn't reinforce anything other than, the fact that you might need a germ killer spritz.
Whereas I'm a straight guy and I listen to musicals and cook dinner.
I do half of that half the time.
You'd make a sandwich and
I make half a sandwich and I watch the first act of Sweeney Todd.
Oh, excellent.
That's about as far as it goes.
Wrong first act.
Okay, so thank you so much everyone for joining us for Faces of Stone. We will be back in, I guess, 3 weeks.
October 6th.
October 6th for The Empire Strikes Back, which, is largely lauded as the best Star Wars film that there is. So we'll see how all of us feel about that opinion as we get closer to that time. And also, I think that, I'm guessing that we're going to be watching different versions of this film.
Probably.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we've got like the 2004 DVDs, I believe.
And I think I have the 2014 or 2011 special edition. So we're going to have to compare notes on how different those are.
Is Darth Vader Luke's father in the version that you have?
No, he's Luke's cousin. It's not as impactful. It doesn't work so well.
Yeah, leave it alone,
I just, why change that? And, why did they add, that cat that does the rap in the middle of the movie?
It's excellent CGI. I mean, it really is beautifully done.
But I mean, I don't know. Paula Abdul just had some extra cast members to load out.
2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody out there is looking for more information about our program,
or if you guys want to give us your own fan theories,
we want to hear them.
Do this. You can do it on the YouTubes, comments.
Facesofstone.space is where you can find our complete schedule and lots of information and our whole archive of Star Wars and Twin Peaks: The Return discussions.
We're also on the Facebook page.
And we're also on Facebook, yes, and on Twitter we're M_A_Macon, president of Sisk, and Noah Diamond.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thanks to my co-hosts this week. And we will see you next time
on
Faces
of Stone.
Stone.